Hello, friend. This is Ryan Hicks of TalkToProfit.com. And today I want to talk to you about why you need to stop being weak and powerless in perceived times of crisis. I've seen a number of grown men recently sending out emails to the world. Now, this is something that happened in private, and they're exposing themselves to the world to shame and ridicule that they've earned by talking about how scared they are and how terrified they are, how riddled with fear, that they're having anxiety attacks, that they're crying simply because the stores in their area are locked down and they only have access to a limited amount of food. These aren't people starving. These are people with all kinds of food in their houses. They're not going without. They're not suffering hunger. They just have a limited amount of options right now. And they're in panic. One guy was talking about how he was trying to comfort his children, and in the middle of trying to comfort them, he started to tear up and he couldn't speak anymore because he's going to cry. Listen, it's hard not to mock this patheticness, because these are people that literally have had their whole worlds turned upside down simply because they're watching the media and they're being fed the propaganda and they're reacting exactly the way they've been programmed to react. They're not walking in faith. They're not walking in boldness. The Lord is not their rock. He's not their fortress. He's not their deliverer. He's not their strength. No, they're powerless. They're weak. They're flailing around, lost and hopeless in the world. And it's pitiful. If you're professing to be a Christian, that kind of attitude, that faithless, weak, effeminate, pathetic attitude should be as far from you as the east is from the west. You have nothing to fear. Fear not, my friend. Don't let the world talk you into panic, talk you into fear, talk you into crying about the fact that you might have limited options at the store, or whatever childish, infantile thing they've got you riled up about. You know, it wasn't too long ago in history that people had to grow their own food. People didn't just go to a store and buy food, and if the store was out of food, they didn't get in a panic and go crying and tell their kids, "Oh no." They were able to stand up in faith. They were able to be productive in faith and do for themselves. And like I said, these are not people going without food. There's literally people in other parts of the world suffering hunger and going without food, and they're this obese, lazy people in America and other Western countries who have an abundance of food, and because their access to food is now a little tiny bit more limited, they're absolutely in a panic and they're faithless and they're weak. My friend, that should never be you. I don't care if your store has zero food. I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. Why would you go without? It doesn't matter what the circumstances are. It doesn't matter what the quote-unquote reality is. It doesn't matter what you see by sight, because you're walking by faith. Now, if you want to fall in line with everybody else who's panicking and crying and whining and having anxiety attacks and all this stuff, then you're going to get the same results they're getting, which is more things to fear, more things to be anxious about, more things to cry about, more things to panic about. But that doesn't need to be you. You could stand up boldly, walking in boldness, walking in power, walking in faith, and not have anything affect you. It's God who girds you with strength. He makes your ways perfect. Stop relying on yourself. If you're feeling like you're weak and anxious, then stop relying on yourself. Cast your care upon Him, for He cares for you. He'll take care of that. Know that whenever you're getting into fear, whenever you're getting into anxiety and panic, you're 100% outside the will of God, and you're not in faith at all. The only faith you could possibly have is faith in the devil, faith in evil, faith in the wickedness in the world, not faith in God, faith in goodness. God's not going to leave you lacking and suffering. But if you choose to reject His help and get into doubt and unbelief, then you end up at the mercy of the world, and that's not a place you want to be at. When you give your power over to the world, over to the devil, the god of this world, over to his people who don't care for you, and you're resisting the Spirit of grace, who wants to provide you with all things in abundance, then what can you possibly have besides anxiety, besides panic, besides trying to comfort your kids and wind up being more infantile than they are? I know this may seem like a hard saying, and as Jesus gave many hard sayings, sometimes it's needed. This is not a time for you, especially if you're a parent of a child, to be weak, to be wavering. This is a time for you to show your children the faith of God and how it works and how abundant and provided for you are. How that when other people are panicking, other people are suffering hunger, other people are crying, other people are anxious, you are walking in boldness, confidence, and receiving supply. This is a time for Christians to rise up and show people what the faith of God can do. How your faith in God produces tangible, real-world results. When no one else is getting results, you're getting even better results. You should be standing up, and your business should be doing better than ever. Because as being led by the Spirit, you can move and maneuver and have things work out better for you. You can be led to move your business to a different area, change what you're selling, change the way you're providing the service, and maneuver in such a way that you, as a nimble person full of faith and wisdom, get even better results. If you subject yourself to the economies of the world, to the news media, to what other people think, and that's going to control your environment, that's going to control your faith, that's going to control whether you believe or don't believe, that's going to control whether you are happy and joyful and living a praiseworthy life, you've already been defeated. But none of that stuff should affect you. That stuff is only for you to see and be able to help other people and be a blessing to them and do good unto all people as much as you can. You can't do good for people when you're drawing them down too, when you're getting them into doubt, when they see you panic, when they see you in anxiety, when they see you in unbelief, when they see you doubting, when they see you wavering. It's easy to talk about faith in God when everything's going perfectly and you're just being moved by sight and not by faith. But now when there are circumstances around for you to rise above and instead you're sinking below them. That's what people are doing, and it shouldn't be the case. I've seen pastors panicking and talking about how fearful they are, and they don't want to have church service because, this might happen and that might happen, this illness and that. They're in absolute panic, completely faithless and unbelieving. And then, worse yet, they're spreading that to other people. They're propagating that evil, that faithless word, that evil report. Instead of thinking about the good report, they're like those men that went in with Joshua and Caleb, and they brought forth an evil report. Don't be that person. I understand it's hard for some people, but I'm telling you today, right here and now, if you will stand up in faith, rise up in faith, believing, you will have good results. If you're in doubt and unbelief, you're literally throwing your power, your dominion, over to the world and expecting them to treat you better than you've treated yourself. And that's not going to happen. You don't want to be relying on chance. You don't want to be relying on luck. You want to be relying on God, your source, your provider, the sustainer of all things. I wrote a book called Co-Creators with God. I also wrote a book called God's Secret Law of Attraction. Both those books are beneficial for you because they help you see how to, as you walk in faith with God, you can get the results you want in life. And then you're not bound by circumstances. You're not bound by chance. You're not bound by what governments choose to do or don't do, what economies are doing or not doing. You have fullness of faith and confidence, and you, through God, are co-creating the reality that you want. You're not relying on chance. You're not relying on the world. You're not relying on other people's opinions. You're not relying on their anxiety and fear. you're boldly walking in faith and getting the results you want. My friend, I pray this is a blessing for you. May God bless you richly.